Integrity is one of our values at the DeBoer Fellowship. And we know that having honesty and integrity in the workplace is one of the most important qualities of leadership in business or any organization. But the question is, how do we know if someone is honest? Or if he or she has the integrity we want to see in a leader? As a leader, how do we deal with someone who is dishonest? You are listening to Trustworthy, a podcast by DeBoer Fellowship, your reliable source for leading with your heart and mind. I am Sokapi, Executive Director of DeBoer Fellowship, your host for this episode of our podcast. On today's show, we have special guest, Mr. Jack DeBoer with us. Jack DeBoer is CEO of WaterWalk, a hybrid between hotel and apartment. Jack is an esteemed entrepreneur and founded the extended stay hotel concept within the hospitality industry. As some listeners may know, Jack and his wife Marilyn have been to Myanmar so many times. They have invested in their times and resources into developing the DeBoer Fellowship, a world-class leadership development organization here in Myanmar. Today, we have asked Jack to share with us his thoughts on the questions of honesty and integrity of leaders and employees. How do you respond when people tell you how honest they are?
It's a very interesting question. What I'm going to be talking about here really can be summed up in one sentence. And I'm going to say the sentence first. And then as I talk about some of the details, remember what the bottom line is. And that is, if you really are a person of integrity, honesty, you don't have to tell anybody. They will know by your action. And if you do tell people, those who are paying attention will say, why does he have to keep saying that? And probably behind that facade, you find a person who is really not that honest. But there's a lot of side things to think about. For instance, what is honesty? I mean, is honesty when you have a business deal and you have a complicated number and you come up with an answer and say, well, maybe I could fudge that number a little bit? That's not honesty. It's honesty. I had a meeting set for 2:00 and now it's 2:15 and I'm just on my way. What excuse can I give for being late? Where was I? Did I just forget about it, or it wasn't that important? So to make something up. It's honesty. I did that. I don't know why you didn't think I did it. I did it, and you hadn't. If you think about it, you look at your life. Honesty begins the moment you wake up. You look out, and it's a beautiful day, and you look at the clock, and now you begin to be who you are. And who you are is not somebody who says, oh gosh, I'll tell everybody I always get up at 7, but it's now 7:30, but nobody will know. And that's just a little kind of a directional lie. So the part in the book, Risk Only Money, is really directed at how do you hire people, because honesty is so important in when you have business relationships or personal relationships, any kind of relationships. And so in the book, I talk about, there's just a handout section that talks about, if a person tells you how honesty is, be careful. I tell you, have to know somebody for about 10 minutes to know if they're honest, because they will send you signals. And having friends, doing business with people who are not honest is fun, but it turns very gray and then very black, and you will be very disappointed.
Have you found yourself dealing with people who you hire later on got dishonest?
Yes, I think that's a good question, and the answer is yes. People who I didn't really know. I start every relationship by assuming that that person is honest. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's the way I did it, because if they're not honest, it'll come through loud and clear. So why take any of your brain power to determine along the way if they're honest? And yes, I've had that kind of situation. One of the big ones, when you have people who work for you and something goes wrong, and it's in the purview of the person you're talking to and saying, what in the world happened? And if that person says, well, old Bill out there, I told him to do this and do that, and he just didn't do it, and that's why we're in this trouble. Well, that's another big one. I mean, when things go wrong in areas of which you are in charge, and you blame somebody else, you're not my kind of person. I like it when it's not your fault, and you still take blame. But don't try to pass it off. I think of it so often over the past of, you're talking to the captain of a boat about keeping costs down, and one of the things he says is, we spend so much money on food. The chef just doesn't know how to shop. Well, okay, that's a good signal. Pay attention. Not teaching him how to shop, but pay attention to how the captain talks about the people who he is responsible for their actions.
So can you think of a situation where you have taken blame with no cost to your success?
Well, I'm trying to think of something specific to understand that when the circumstance has gone wrong, if your mind is searching for blame, you're running off in the wrong direction. You've got to fix what's gone wrong and then analyze how it went wrong and then fix the how.
What does having a blame person do for a work culture?
A blame person will destroy a culture, because a blame person is a liar. And you just can't. I mean, you tell a little white lie, your world isn't going to end. But there's a pattern. And, I could talk about, hiring and firing as part of this. I mean, hiring people is pretty exciting. Everybody's all excited. The person you're trying to hire, they want a job. They really think it's going to be great. And you are trying to hire them. You think they're great, so you're telling them how great it's going to be and how they can really grow in that position and how they can really show their talents, and there's more positions above, and you're telling all the good stuff. And the reverse of that, when you determine along the way that, he really doesn't do it the way you'd like to, and he isn't getting things done the way you think they should be done, and you keep monkeying with it. And you say, I'll talk to him and, make these suggestions and send these emails and do that. when it finally comes time for you to make the tough decision of hiring and firing, and that's saying, hey, it doesn't work, and letting that person go, what you will realize at that point is you've known it for quite a while, but you were unwilling to do anything about it. The people who work for him or her, they knew it was coming someday, just a matter of when. And he or she knew it wasn't working, and they didn't want to disappoint you. And so you're the dragger, and you've got to be able to step up and make a decision. And you will see along the way that if truth isn't the big one, no one's perfect, but if truth isn't there in spades, nothing will turn out well. So, and I can make another comment in that regard. Over the years, I've had to fire, let off a lot of people. And never one time did it come as a surprise, because I was always the one trying to fix it. They knew it. That's one. And two, never, the ones I was able to track, did they not find a better situation, and no one that this person led was surprised. You were last. So don't be last.
Jack, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with us. Your legacy certainly has reached far beyond the United States to our country of Myanmar. For our listener, do you have a story of honesty and leadership? We want to hear it. Write to us at info@DeBoerFellowship.org or message us on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our trustworthy podcast. I am Sogabi. Thank you very much for listening.